Well, it sounds like Skyla is starting to show her true colors, and it sounds like Thanksgiving was a disaster. Now they're trying to take Naomi to Las Vegas with them, Clive and Skyla are. Let's see what's going to happen, but I really don't think Graham is going to let that happen. This is chapter 10, and it's called A Schizophrenia of Hawks. That's weird, absolutely weird, said Blanca after I told her about Thanksgiving Day on the way to class Monday morning. Clive sounds scary. Don't you feel sorry for his daughter? I nodded. I'm not going to Las Vegas. Graham said it loud and clear. Did you tell her about the booze in the back seat? No, well, I didn't know for sure if Skylar was really going to drink it. I mean, maybe it was just for Clive? Graham has enough worries right now, and then what if Graham says something to Skylar and Skylar gets mad at me? Skylar wouldn't have told you to keep your mouth shut if the beer was for Clive. You should tell your Graham, said Blanca. No, I said. Not until I know for sure. I could already hear the caterwaul of Skylar and Graham fighting if Graham found out. Naomi the lion, said Blanca, shaking her head as we walked into Mrs. Marmotto's room. You need to wake up before something bad happens. We have a problem, said Graham, rushing into the trailer on Thursday afternoon. I'm going to have to cancel Owen's appointment. Why? Said Skylar, brushing her baby finger with Holy Berry nail polish. The bride of that big wedding is at Fabiola's, said Graham. She tried on the wedding gown and has lost so much weight that we're going to have to work straight through the afternoon to get it altered. The wedding is this weekend, out of town. She's coming back first thing in the morning to pick up the gown. I can take Owen, said Skylar, waving her hands to dry her nose. Graham's forehead wrinkled. Now, don't look so worried or be like you used to be, not trusting me over every little thing. I'll even pick up chicken in a bucket for dinner. We can handle it, can't we, Naomi? For the past week, Skylar had been smooth and nice as cream pie. She hadn't once mentioned Las Vegas again. Maybe if she held Graham today, it would mend just about everything between them. I'll take notes for you, just like I always, I said to Graham, holding up my notebook, and I'll call you the minute we get home. Graham hesitated and bit her lip. Well, it would be a big help. Otherwise, we'd have to wait forever for another appointment, and it's just his usual x-ray and consultation. For heaven's sake, said Skylar. It's only to Children's Hospital and back. Now it's all decided. Besides, I am his mother. Owen and I knew Children's Hospital by heart and could give directions to anyone for surgery, pediatrics, physical therapy, orthopedics, and the lab. I had sat in just about every waiting room and visited all the public restrooms. We'd spent so much time here over the years that Graham said they should name a table in the cafeteria after us. At every nursing station we passed, someone said hello to us or came out to slap hands with Owen or to give me a hug and to ask about Graham. While Owen was in radiology getting his x-rays, Skylar and I waited in the hall in plastic chairs. Wide-eyed, she watched each doctor and nurse walk by. When an elderly pushed a patient down the hall in a bed on wheels, Skylar shuddered. Oh, hospitals give me the creeps. Why, I asked. Lots of people get better in hospitals. Yeah, well, lots of people don't, she snapped. She got up and paced. Naomi, when are you going to start talking so I can hear you? I'm tired of straining my ears. Hand me my purse and tell me in a regular voice where I can find the restroom. Raising my voice a hair, I said, It's down the hall to the right. She jerked her purse out of my hand and marched off. When she finally came back 20 minutes later, she had double-dosed herself with gardenia perfume. Layered underneath was something even stronger. It reminded me of Graham's Christmas rum cake. I coughed and choked on all the sweetness. What's that smell? Naomi, it's just a little something to calm me down, to get me through all this. She looked around the hospital hallway. You mind your own business like I told you before. Do you hear me? I nodded, looking at my shoes. She was drinking again. But no matter what she said, the alcohol wasn't relaxing her because her hands shook and she could not stand still. After the x-rays, the three of us waited in one of the fancy consult rooms with nice furniture. Graham called them friendly rooms. She said that if the doctors gave you bad news, they wanted you in a comfy, friendly atmosphere, not a scary one. Skyla sat down and tapped her nails on the table. The room had a window looking into a small playroom where the doctors would ask Owen to go when they were ready to report the grown-up stuff. They always let me stay since I was Graham's secretary. How much longer, said Skyla. A few minutes, said Owen. Good, then I have time to scoot out to the restroom. When she came back, the perfume was taking a back seat to the rum cake. Two doctors arrived and wearing white smocks and holding file folders. Little koala bears hugged their stethoscopes, and one wore a tie with bright balloons all over it. Owen jumped up and hugged them. They were part of his special team. After they let go of Owen, Dr. Reed turned to us. "Hello, Naomi, and you must be Owen's mother." She looked at his folders. "Skylar Jones. Mrs. Outlaw called and said you'd be bringing him today. I'm Dr. Amanda Reed, and this is my colleague, Dr. John Navarro. I'm an orthopedist, and Dr. Navarro is an ENT. We both specialize in pediatrics." Owen leaned towards Skylar and whispered, "She's a bone doctor, and he's an ear, nose, and throat guy, and they take care of kids." Skylar glared at him. "I know what they are, Owen." Her voice sounded pinched. She tapped a little harder on the table, and one of her press-on nails flew across the room and landed on the floor. Owen laughed hard, and the doctors chuckled along with him. When Owen saw Skylar stare, he immediately stopped. I tried to cover my smile with my hands. Skylar's face was as hot as her nail polish. "What can you do about Owen?" she said, examining her fingers. Skylar didn't know the order of things. "First, we'd like Owen to be excused. Why don't you go to the playroom for a few minutes while we talk?" said Dr. Reed. After Owen hopped up and went into the adjoining room, Dr. Navarro turned to Skylar. "At this juncture, there is nothing more to do. He's had all the surgeries that his age and size can accommodate. There's a surgery we would like to do when he reaches adolescence, when he's 13 or 14. But for now, we've reviewed all of his tests and we've determined that he's in great shape. He's just going to be an FLK." "A what?" said Skylar. "A funny-looking kid," said Dr. Reed. "Is that some medical term, or are you trying to make a joke?" "No," said Dr. Navarro. "I'm certainly not making fun of him, and sometimes it's a term we use unofficially. He's fine mentally. In fact, he has a rather high IQ and is quite bright. He just has a few physical problems that were the result of his birth defects. But there's nothing more we can do surgically for now. He's just going to be an FLK, a funny-looking kid," said Skylar, her voice rising scary and shrill. "As if I don't have enough problems. This is embarrassing." Dr. Reed wrinkled her forehead. "He's healthy and has a wonderful outlook on life. He has great prospects, great potential, and with a few more surgeries when he gets older." I didn't think Owen would mind being a funny-looking kid for a few more years. We had both spent enough time at Children's Hospital to know that his ailments were slight compared to some others. If Gram were here, she would have said it was our lucky day. Skylar pressed her lips together tight. She leaned toward the doctors and said, "This kid's a blem. He's crooked and he can't talk right, and you're telling me nothing more can be done to make him right? Well, that's no bargain in my book." I couldn't believe that Skylar was comparing Owen to Walker Gordon's once yearly sale of discount shoes called the Blems, the ones with flaws. Dr. Navarro searched in his pocket, pulled out a business card, stood up, and handed it to Skylar. "Mrs. Jones, please call me if you have any questions. I'd be happy to talk to you at length. And I can also recommend a support group if you like. We know Owen rather well, and he's a remarkable young man. My number is on the card." Skylar looked at the card and tossed it back on the table. Then she stood up, walked over to the playroom door, and jerked it open. "Owen, come on, we're getting out of here." Owen walked into the conference room, smiling until he saw all the concerned looks around him. I got up and took his hand. "Everything's okay, Owen." "Naomi," yelled Skylar, "everything is not okay." As we left the room, I saw Owen eyeing the tape dispenser on the shelf near the door. Skylar kept her eyes straight on the road and barely moved all the way home, except for her swigs from one of those plastic travel bottles that she kept pulling out of her purse. Even though it was dark, she drove too fast, weaving the car in and out of traffic. Owen pulled himself so far into his hooded sweatshirt, he looked like a swaddled cocoon. When we finally arrived at Baby Beluga, I was dizzy and my hands trembled. As soon as I got inside, I hurried to call Gram. Skylar said, "Put the phone down, Naomi. Sit down, both of you." We sat. "Don't you ever laugh at me or humiliate me like that again. And Naomi, don't give me that 'I don't know what you're talking about' stare, because you know exactly what I mean. Owen, I guess there's not much to be done with you, but you're going to stop this tape thing starting right now. And if you don't, that bike is going in the trash." "Gram always lets me have tape," said Owen, his voice hoarse. "I can wear it if I want." "Let it be, Owen. Please let it be," I prayed. "I'm your mother, Owen, and if I say it's going to stop, it's going to stop." Skylar took a step toward Owen. I was a shaking leaf by my instincts, but my instincts moved my body right between Owen and Skylar. I said, "It doesn't hurt anything." Skyla stared at me with fire and hammers. The phone rang and she answered it, never taking her eyes from mine. "Hi, baby," said Skyla. "Saturday, that's great. I'll start packing up right now and I'll be over later. I'm not staying in this hole one more minute. Don't worry, she'll come along, just like we planned." "No, I don't care what you say. I am not bringing him. Not after the day I've had. I never could handle the situation, and I still can't. Tell you about it later." Skyla hung up and headed straight for the cupboard under the kitchen sink and pulled out a plastic garbage bag. She walked around the living room, kitchen, picking up her things and tossing them inside the bag. Then she headed to the bedroom. From the back of the trailer, she yelled, "I can't find rose tulip. Where's my rose tulip lipstick? Naomi, you haven't been using it, have you?" Skyla hurried down the hall toward us, dragging the bag. "Clive's job came through in Las Vegas, finally. We're leaving, Naomi. Toss some things in this bag. Bring those jeans I bought you and those sparkly shirts." "Leaving? I wasn't leaving." I shook my head. "Don't tell me no. I have had it with your attitude, and you're only saying 2 words and speaking in whispers nonsense. Where did I put that lipstick?" Skyla began poking around the shelf above the sink. When she turned and saw I wasn't moving, she yelled, "Get your things right now!" and swept her hand across the shelf. The 3 little soap ducks fell to the floor, their heads breaking off and rolling around like tops. I looked down at the broken pieces. You can't tell us what to do," I said. Where were my words coming from? Skyla bristled. "I can tell you to do anything I like. I'm your mother. I can see that Graham obviously doesn't know how to raise children. Just look at you with your smart mouth." A mean, stomp my foot feeling rose from a place I didn't know existed in my mind. I wished I could throw my anger at Skyla and yell, but my voice came out a shaky whimper. "Graham takes care of us. She does. Everything for us. Not like you. You left us. You didn't want us. And then you didn't even let our father see us. Now we're supposed to do what you say? I'm not going." Skyla took 2 steps across the room, then slapped me across the cheek. It was such a hard slap that my head turned and snapped against my shoulder. I didn't have to look in a mirror to know that the sting of her hand was perfectly imprinted. I felt it from the inside out. Angry, burning tears stung my eyes. I wanted to wipe them away, but now my hands were paralyzed and my feet were rooted to the floor. Skyla raised her hand again. "Leave her alone," yelled Owen, running over and throwing his arms around my waist. Skyla dropped her hand. Spooky, calm words came from her mouth. "There's more where that came from, Naomi. I can see that I'm going to need to spend a lot of time teaching you how to mine. And don't give me those puppy dog eyes like you're scared of me. I always hated it when you did that. I can't believe you haven't changed one bit since you were little, always defying me then and still defying me now. You know, if anything happens to Graham, all y'all have is me anyway, and something could happen to her anytime now, old as she is. You wouldn't want that, would you, Naomi? Something bad happening to Graham on account of you?" My knees went gelatin wobbly. What was Skyla saying? That she would hurt Graham? That she might kill Graham? I was still trying to grasp it all when her voice switched to sugar. "No, Naomi, honey, you know I didn't mean that little slap, so don't hold it against me. You're just like me, remember? 2 peas in a pot? It will be fun. You can go to school in Las Vegas. Clive has Sapphire now, so you'll have a friend that's like a little sister. It's been all arranged and decided. We're picking her up on the way. Owen's going to stay here and take care of Graham, so you see, everyone will be happy." I started inching toward the door. Skyla swooped like a hawk, diving for a morsel of meat, and grabbed my arm, digging her nails into my skin. I flinched. Skyla was wrong. I wasn't just like her. We were not 2 peas in a pot. I stood as still as I could so she'd relax her grip. Okay, I think I saw rose tulip in the bathroom cabinet." "Well, that's better," she said, all perky. She let go and headed down the hall. I quietly took Owen's hand and pulled him back toward the door. Then I pushed it open and we flew down the steps. "Run, Owen, run fast," I said, tugging him along beside me into the murky grove. We were halfway through the trees when we heard Skyla's voice. "I know you can hear me, Naomi. You're going with me, one way or another." Chapter 11, A Flight of Swallows. Out of breath, Owen and I spilled into Fabiola's living room. She and Graham looked up from the wedding gown that they were stuffing with tissue and wrapping in plastic. "What's happened?" asked Graham. I burst into tears, and Owen talked so fast I could barely understand him. "She's coming, and she's going to take Naomi away, and she hit Naomi, and she's going to hurt you." Graham hurried to me and examined my cheek. Her mouth set in a straight line and something fierce building in her eyes. You and Owen go out to the shed. Send Bernardo in here. You stay there and don't come out until I come to get you. As we ran to the shed, I heard Skyla's muffled voice calling from the other side of the dark trees, Naomi! In the shed, Bernardo stood in half a circle of wood shavings from the plank he had been planning. Owen's words tripped over each other when he explained about Skyla. Bernardo quickly turned off the dangling light bulb, and before he pulled the door shut on his way to the yard, he grabbed his biggest shovel. I could smell the freshly shorn wood. I ran my fingers along the rippled aluminum wall. What's going to happen? Whispered Owen. I think she's going to come over and try to convince Grandma to send me with her, I whispered back. I kept hearing Skyla's words. Something could happen to her any time now, old as she is. Softly, Owen said, Why doesn't Skyla want me, too? My mind tumbled to think of some comfort words. It's plain and clear she only wants me so I can be friends with Clive's daughter, and so she can get money from the state, so I'm nothing special. I touched my cheek and winced from the tenderness. I could still hear Skyla saying that there was more where that came from. Owen thought on what I'd said for a minute. Even in the almost dark, I could see his round eyes intent on my face. He shook his head. I think she never wanted me when I was a baby because I wasn't, like everyone else. And I think she doesn't want me now. But Graham wanted us, Owen, and our father. Those are the good things. We were lucky for that. I scooted over close to him and put my arm around his shoulders while we waited. We heard Lulu's barking first. Owen and I carefully peeked through the window in the door. We could see Graham and Fabiola, who was now holding Lulu, and Bernardo by their side. The three stood shoulder to shoulder like a barricade. Skyla stood in front of them, talking so soft, almost cooing, that we couldn't hear her words. But Graham's voice carried in the crisp night air. She is not going anywhere with you, and that is that. The cooing stopped, and Skyla's voice fired up. Clive told me you'd be like this. If you don't go along, all I have to do is show up with a police officer. You can't prove any legal rights to her. She'll have to go with me. Is that what you want, me showing up with a police officer to take Naomi? I held my stomach, thinking I might be sick. Would Graham have to let me go? Skyla, I'd go to the end of the earth to protect that child. I'll go to court if that's what I have to do. Skyla laughed. The court would never deny custody to a natural parent. Clive told me all about it. There's not a judge that wouldn't give me my own child. You abandoned those children, said Graham. That will count for something. And there's another kettle of fish to consider. What about their father? Him? What about him? He hasn't seen them in years. He doesn't care. Skyla stumbled, then steadied herself. Now, where is she? Skyla, what makes you think I turn her over, especially with you in your condition? You're drinking, I can tell. That does not concern you. Now I'm saying it again. Clive, Naomi, and I are going to Las Vegas. Where is she? Bernardo took a few steps towards Skyla with the shovel pointed out. Skyla walked backwards, slowly, and waved a shaky finger at Graham. Fine. I'll be back with Clive to pick up Naomi at noon on Saturday, and I expect her bags to be packed. If she's not ready, I'm going straight to the police. I'm not going to forget you making problems for me and Clive. Naomi doesn't belong to you. She belongs to me. She is my daughter. Fabiola and Lulu spent the night with us in Baby Beluga, but it was a small comfort because I didn't sleep a straight 10 minutes. I had ideas of Skyla and Clive scooping me up at any moment to the point I was more tired when I woke up Friday morning than when I'd gone to bed the night before. It didn't matter. We didn't go to school anyway, which was fine by me. I stuck to Graham like an ivy plant on the side of a barn and glanced over my shoulder at the least little sound. That afternoon, Graham went with Fabiola to do private errands and said I couldn't come along. Owen and I stayed with Bernardo, and Lulu was close by as guard dog. But even then, when one of the Grove workers knocked on the door, I ran to the kitchen and started to cry. That night, Graham and Fabiola barely watched Wheel of Fortune. They had their heads together, talking quiet-like the whole time. When I crawled into bed, my body collapsed into the mattress, heavy and limp, like a half-full flour sack. It was a different kind of tired than I'd ever known my whole life. Graham came to tuck me in, smiling. I had already asked her a dozen times, but I had to ask again. Are you sure Skyla's not coming for me tomorrow? Don't you worry, said Graham. Tomorrow you're definitely not going to be with Skyla. But the police, shush, said Graham. I have plans, Naomi, but you don't need to be concerned with them. Now, can you muster a tiny smile for me? The last few days you've had a permanent wrinkled brow. I struggled to make my mouth turn up on the ends. Then I skipped into sleep. A regular sound like a clock rocked me in a deep, gentle fog with no nightmares or dreams, just nothingness. Over and over, mist and motion, mist and motion. I felt suspended in a hammock of sleep, swaying back and forth. When I did wake in the morning, I felt as peaceful as a kitten after a long nap, until I blinked several times. Then the restfulness startled out of me. I sat up. Owen! Sleepy-eyed Owen sat up and looked at me. We both grabbed the sides of our beds. The walls pitched and vibrated. An earthquake. Gram! I called, but there was no answer. I tried to think. What did they tell us to do in school? Stand in a doorway or a small bathroom. I struggled to get out of bed and to help Owen. I pulled him along behind me and tried to balance with one hand against the trailer wall, but I could hardly stay straight. The shaking kept up at a steady pace. Graham! I called again. I stumbled down the narrow hallway with Owen. For a second, I was afraid to look into the living room kitchen. I'd seen those earthquake movies and the reports on television. Nothing left on the walls, cupboards open and dishes smashed on the floor. I leaned forward and peeked into the room. Graham and Fabiola sat at the drop-down table drinking coffee. Out the window behind them, the cars sprinted by in the opposite direction. It wasn't an earthquake at all. Baby Beluga was moving down a highway. Through the window in the front of the trailer, I could see Bernardo's truck towing us with his trailer hitch. Lulu was perched next to his shoulder on the top of the seat, looking out the back windshield to us and panting. Luggage and boxes smuggled right in the truck bed, tied in with rope. My eyes shifted to the counters inside Baby Beluga. They were stacked with boxes of groceries, bottled water, a 24-pack of Nature's Pure White bar soap, and an economy box of transparent tape. I'd never seen Owen so happy. He jumped up and down the best he could, seeing how we were in a moving vehicle. He was giggling so hard he finally had to sit on the floor. Can Lulu ride back here with us? He asked between fits of clapping. No, said Graham. We're all moving into the safety of the truck as soon as Bernardo stops. Graham, I said, still holding onto the side of the trailer for balance. Naomi, in my wildest dreams, I never thought I'd uproot Baby Beluga. I told Skyla I'd go to the end of the earth to protect you, and I am fulfilling that prophecy. Besides, I always said you and Owen should know your Mexican history, so we are taking a holiday vacation to Mexico, to Oaxaca, said Fabiola, to see our family and for La Navidad, Christmas. Fabiola said this as if it was something we had planned, like a regular event on the calendar that we never miss. She held up a big driving map of Mexico. A red marker lined our route. Lemon Tree is close to here, she pointed near Tijuana, which bordered San Diego. Then she unfolded the map full size, and we are going here. Fabiola tapped her finger on a state in Mexico that was almost near Central America. We might as well be driving to New York City for how far away we were headed. I took a step closer. Across the state were the letters Oaxaca. Pointing at them, I asked, what does that mean? Fabiola laughed. It's the name of the state. It's pronounced Oaxaca. And here, at this star, is Oaxaca City, the capital of the state and the town where our family lives. They are very excited that we are coming. We have not seen them in too many years. But what about school? Asked Owen. Your winter break would have started the week after next anyway, and you don't start up again until January 8th. You're just missing an extra 2 weeks, said Graham. Yippee! Cried Owen. I already called and left messages for your teacher, said Graham. Mrs. Maloney's going to collect our mail, water the plants, and feed Fabiola's chickens. I wish I could have told Blanca that we were leaving. She would have loved to know that I was on my way to Mexico. What if her mom got promoted to another value city before we got back? Would I see her again? I crossed the trailer and scooted in next to Graham. She put her arm around me. I looked out the window and at the brown hills. We were on the lam, Graham said, and for good reason. Yesterday I met a nice young lady lawyer who had plenty to tell me. I got temporary guardianship of you and Owen. See this folder? Graham held up a thick envelope. I've got your birth certificates and my notarized papers right here. Graham glanced at Fabiola as if there was a secret passing between them. We have a court hearing the day before you go back to school, January 7th. Come to find out, we have a free legal aid office for folks like me right in Lemon Tree. And we have Clive to thank for giving me the idea. I just wish I'd known about such a thing sooner. Does Skyla know? She will as soon as she gets the notice. She's going to pitch a fit when she finds out. Naomi and I am taking a chance by going to court and letting a judge decide on us. And I could be opening another can of worms, but I don't see any other way. I scrunched up my forehead. But what if the judge says, do not even think of that, said Graham. The lawyer said the court would appoint a mediator, someone who isn't from one side or the other, to interview everyone involved, which means we will all get to answer. And on top of that, we're going to try and find your father and ask him to help us. The lawyer said the judge would weigh his wishes very heavily. He still has rights to you, too. If I can convince him to write a letter on our behalf, Well, he's our ticket, Naomi, and we are going to find him. We just have to believe it. Her voice dwindled into a sigh. I wanted to believe it. I did. Do you know where our father lives? The last I knew, he lived in Puerto Escondido near the ocean. The only thing I know for sure is that he comes to Oaxaca City every year for a few days before Christmas for that radish carving festival on the 23rd. What if he won't help us? Santiago was always a good, kind man, said Graham. I have to believe that he hasn't changed and wants the best for you. I am locked on the prospect of finding him. Sitting so close, I could see dark puddles in the withered skin beneath Graham's eyes. Her hair had not been fluffed, and she looked smaller and older and more tired than I ever remembered. I suddenly wanted to scoop her up and rock her like a baby. I looked at Fabiola, studying the map, and I could see the back of Bernardo's head in the truck. I knew they hadn't been planning this trip. I turned to the window. 100 birds sat on a telephone line, and in one instant they released and lifted with stubborn determination, trailing across the sky toward somewhere. I patted Graham's hand, then reached across the table for my notebook. Turning to a clean page, I wrote 100 times, "We will find him, we will find him, we will find him."